Yeah, good evening, everyone. Uh, Thanks for joining in. Let me just introduce myself first. My name is Rana Biswas. I head the executive education and placements for Indian School of Public Policy, which is based out of Delhi, Hoskas. I'll just briefly talk about what ISPP and is all about. So ISPP is the first standalone public policy school in India and in the Southeast Asia. So this is the first school which is a standalone public policy school in India. We are very proud of it. It's been close to 8 years now that we started this institute, and we only teach public policy courses. We are agnostic to the industry because policy cuts across all industries in India and across the world. So that's what we do. We have regular courses. We also have executive education. Everything is there in the website. I'm just kind of giving you a brief overview of what we do. This webinar is in collaboration and partnership with Sunbird Trust. Sunbird Trust essentially is an organization which is founded by Colonel Christopher Rego, who's one of the speakers here. They have been working in the Northeast for the last 10 years now, and it's been an amazing journey from where Colonel Rego started and where they have reached, and he's going to walk us through this and how it impacts and how their work impacts on the ground in terms of what the challenges are there in Northeast. He's been in Northeast and seen it very, very closely. So he's going to talk us through, and they work across Northeast, and they build schools, they founded schools, and that is what the education is, what is their core competency. So we are very happy to partner with Sunbird Trust for this webinar. Now, introduction on Colonel Rego. Colonel Christopher Rego has over 3 decades of service in the Indian Army and extensive experience in conflict-affected regions such as Mizoram and Manipur. So he brings in a practitioner's perspective on how access to education, community trust, and grassroots partnerships can become powerful tools for peace building. So I think the word peace is very critical in Northeast. We've seen a lot of, what shall I say, conflicts in various parts. I think this has tapered down as we speak. So Colonel Rego's work through the Sunbird Trust has supported the education of thousands of children and strengthened social cohesion between and across diverse communities in the Northeast. This is also a reflective conversation that we're going to have on education-led peace building, policy insights from the ground, and what they mean for the region's long-term stability and development. So education, to my mind, is a great tool, not only for a lot of things that we talk about in terms of awareness, in terms of mindset, but the mindset of peace and how we stay away from conflicts and get into meaningful discussions with all stakeholders, including the government, is something which I think on a long-term basis, education will bring in. I think that is what differentiates what Sunbird Trust brings into the table and what they have been doing for the last 10 years in the Northeast. So here, so without much ado, I think, let us start the webinar, and thanks everybody for joining in. A couple of ground rules. Kindly, if possible, we want to see you. So please try and get the cameras on if possible. The question and answer session, question and answers can be put into the chat or the question answer. There is a separate Q&A box here. Kindly put in your question and answer. We'll take the question and answer session after half an hour, 40 minutes when we are done with the presentation and the discussion. So these are the ground rules. Over to you, Colonel Rego.
Thank you so much, Rana. And at the outset, I'm really grateful to the Indian School of Public Policy for giving us this opportunity to project the work of Sunbird over the past 11 years, in fact. And I'm really grateful to everybody who's taken the time off during the week to be a part of this webinar. Thank you once again, and let me begin. So, how did this journey begin of building peace, and that too from an army man with a gun in his hand who served in the Northeast with the Assam Rifles and the army and whatnot? So, it starts when, I asked for a posting to the Northeast when I was somewhat fed up of the postings all across the inverted commas mainland. And I was sent first to Meghalaya for a short while and then on to Mizoram with the Assam Rifles. And that was way back in 2003. And I was really looking forward, and I really reached this beautiful place, my wife and myself and my children. And to our surprise, we were welcomed with, "Oh, you've come from India." A big surprise because, we never expected this. And then we were referred to as Indians. And despite the good people being there, the hospitality, we still found a lot of suspicion and even hatred towards the armed forces and even some sections of the Indians who were there, working there in Mizoram. So my wife and I took a very quick decision that let's enjoy these 3 years or so that we've got, 3 to 4 years that we've got here. Let's immerse ourselves in Mizo society and learn what about them, their culture, and what the fuss is about. And as we traveled across the length and breadth of Mizoram, we came to the conclusion that the children and the youth were going the wrong way for their lack of access to education, either physically or financially. Physically, through the lack of schools, and financially, by not having the means to attend schools. Many of them were the children of hunter-gatherers, of subsistence farmers. That was a big issue. Now, without the education, without the empowerment, without the employment, and to survive, many of them were drawn towards going to Myanmar, smuggling in things from there, getting drugs across, getting into drugs, and joining militant groups. And so we came to the conclusion that one of the big solutions to this problem has to be education. And with our modest means, my wife and I began sponsoring, 4 or 5 children in Mizoram. And what we noted immediately was that there was such a mindset change in the parents. It didn't take weeks and months. The minute we started sponsoring the children into school, we were welcomed into their modest huts and their homes. And not only that, the neighbors, the entire village became our friends. And we said, wow, this is a beautiful idea. If we can get more and more people from all parts of India to support people in this remote part of our country, it's going to make a big difference. And we were further, encouraged. One of the students wanted to go to America. His mother was a vegetable seller. She didn't even own a shop. She had a basket on her head. And somehow this boy was able to get admission to a university in America, and we gave him a loan to leave Mizoram on posting. This boy said that, "Hey, listen, you'll have done so much for me. I'd like to return the money." And the next day, his parents came over within barely a year or a year and a half and returned the entire amount, which was quite a substantial amount. So he had worked in the hostel, worked in the cafeteria and whatnot. And then we began to wonder that our money in the bank would have earned a very little interest. But here was a case where a life was being made, by just loaning somebody this money, which didn't mean so much to us in the first place. So that's how we started this idea of working with children in the Northeast. We loved our tenure in Mizoram so much that when the army gave me a posting, my last posting, which was in 2012, to my hometown, Bangalore, I instead wrote back and requested them to send me to Manipur. And of course, they were astonished. Manipur was in the throes of all sorts of conflict, ethnic conflict, revolution almost against the government and those type of things. So regardless, they said before this rather crazy colonel changes his mind, I was sent to Manipur. And that was a very seminal part of our journey, where I can again say I got a very warm welcome, which was I was posted to the Border Roads organization, where my job was to travel across Manipur. And we had a vehicle blown up, we had people kidnapped, there were bomb blasts, there were grenades thrown over the wall, and very sadly, 18 of our soldiers were ambushed when we were there in the neighborhood and killed. 18 of them were killed. So that's when we formed up the idea of Sunbird Trust and the concept of peace through education. Now, with that introduction, without wasting further time, I will run you through our little presentation. Please sit back and relax. It has got plenty of pictures as I narrate this story to you. So again, the why, like I mentioned to you, I'd mentioned about a vehicle being blown up. So here it is, a vehicle of the Border Roads Task Force blown up without any reason, innocent people going to work. Fortunately, nobody died in this incident. And of course, the perception of the people of the Northeast, many of them, whether they really belong to India with some of the discrimination that they face. More recently, from the 3rd of May 2023, this utmost violence that shook Manipur tremendously, it has caused a deep division among the people. So this is the background in which we are, Sunbird has been founded in 2014. It is a charitable trust registered in Bangalore for a reason in which there was a bit of confidentiality. Otherwise, in the conflict-affected areas, there's a lot of interference with the work of the trust. And we are governed by 4 trustees and a 17-member board of advisors. So our vision is building peace through education, and this is basically in the remote and conflict-affected parts of Northeast India. And we have set a mission for ourselves, and that is to provide 100,000 annual scholarships to raise 50 educational institutions, which could be schools or hostels, and to positively impact the lives of 500,000, 5 lakh people through the work, through our children, through the villages where they come from. And here is what we do. The obvious challenges, what I've mentioned, the financial challenges and accessing education. We provide student sponsorships. The lack of education and infrastructure, we try to build those schools and hostels. And all these, and both these things, most importantly, leading to what we want to do, which is the mindset change by engaging with the local population. We work across 6 of the 8, not the 7 sisters that you would hear, because there is also Sikkim if you count it as the 8th. We will soon be in the 7th, which is Mizoram, and perhaps in the months and years to come, we will be in Tripura, which is the last state. So we are working right across the Northeast. And the work that has been done and whatever we've been achieved in this past decade has been due to a beautiful, passionate, committed, young team. You would see that most of them, actually the average age of the team is barely 27, 28. And all are young professionals hailing from, professionals in development, in education, in social work. Some of them even finished their MBAs. But the one thing that unites them all is coming to such a remote area where there is sometimes no connectivity, no electricity, the provisions are scarce, and there is the danger of the conflict as well. So this is the team which is doing all the work that we are doing. So we have 3 basic flagship programs. School transformation program in which we build schools and we build capacity of the children as well as, of course, the physical infrastructure. We provide access. This is an Access for All program, which is our sponsorship program. And both these, again, leading to the community initiative. So these are the 3 pillars of our work. So coming to the school transformation program, so it is mainly the capacity building of the founders, the teachers, and the students, which is very important. The physical infrastructure has been coming up beautifully. You will see in a couple of the pictures that are coming up. And these are some of the things: need-based educational sponsorship, developing the schools, hostels, computer labs, libraries, and training the students not just to be, rote learners, but to be leaders and, good citizens of the future. And at this time, there are 9 schools which we have raised where the team members are based. Out of the total of 15 schools, in 9 of these schools, we have team members that are building the capacity of the teachers and the staff. And now to give you an example of the physical difference that has been made, I'll give you just one of the 15 schools. What you see in front of us was an existing school in this very remote village of Kachai in Ukhrul district of Manipur. And what is special about this area is that Ukhrul is the start and the fountain of the conflict or the insurgency, as some people would call it, where of the Nagar insurgency, where a lot of anger was there against the Indian state. Some of it, I would say, justified for the lack of infrastructure or things in the past, not now. And so this is the school building leaking, the wood crumbling, mud flows, and more than 200 children coming here. And then when we found excellent leadership and excellent buy-in by the community, we said we must do something. And here is the difference. You can see the same place. It is almost magical. In the foreground, you can see what the old school looked like, and you'll see the new school that has been constructed there thanks to some very, very good donors of ours. And importantly, look at the background, look at the hills and look at the remoteness. So children walk through these hills, walk through the forest and reach the school. And of course, more than 200 of them are living in the school in the hostels. So that gives you an idea. Now, in the same school, believe it or not, this was the toilet that used to be for the girls. You can imagine 9th and 10th standard girls using toilets like this. And of course, with the help that we got from our donors, this was the change that was made. And the next program is the Access for All, which is basically our sponsorship. We look at means come merit to hire, to sponsor the children. We look at this as a partnership. We don't look at it as throwing money and as a charity with these children, because with a lot of the children who we have taken beyond the 10th, beyond the 12th, beyond graduation to post-graduation, they have become our own team members at this stage. So we are enjoying 8 of our team being our own students, alumni. Some of them have come up from primary school, and 2 are even our board members. So this is something for the long term. It is not just a short-term sponsorship. And we are currently granting, annual scholarships to as many as 13,000 students across these 6 states. And the heart of what we're doing, at the end of the day, we can give the sponsorship, we can build the schools, but if we are not able to engage with the community, we are failing in our mission and failing in our work. So part of the community engagement, access to government schemes, we have been able to help them get Aadhaar cards, get them connected to the various schemes they're entitled to. We have certain livelihood sustainability projects like the salt. This is not the salt that we eat. This is the sloping agriculture land technique that draws the people away from their traditional, very destructive way of jhum cultivation or shifting cultivation. That's one of our pilot projects. Each of these would require a separate presentation, so I won't dwell on them. We have built water tanks, community halls, solar electrified many villages. There are in fact at least 150 villages in eastern Nagaland that have got the solar lights from us, places where the electricity has not yet reached. Tons of relief through COVID and during the unfortunate civil conflict in Manipur. And access to skilling programs, we are constantly on the job of connecting our children to these skilling programs. Excuse me. We have supported the Assam Rifle and the Army skilling camps, helping them to conduct these for a few hundred children, many of whom have now been employed in the hospitality industry, in the call centers, and even other better opportunities. And before I come to the peace portion, which is the important portion of our discussion, here's a quick impact summary. In fact, since we have started in 2014, we have issued more than 60,000 annual scholarships. And like I said, some of these have been extremely fruitful because so many of the children, more than almost 400 to 500 children have now finished graduation, got jobs, pulling entire families out of poverty, build homes for their parents, putting younger children, younger siblings through school and college. And 150 other infrastructure, like I said, the water tanks or the community halls. And we have impacted about more than 4 lakh people with the different community engagement, the projects that we have had. Now coming to the heart of what we're about to talk, it's about peace education, the reason for our existence. So what really is peace education? An approach to learning that equips individuals and communities with the knowledge, values, attitudes, and skills needed to prevent conflict, resolve differences non-violently, and build just, inclusive, and sustainable societies. So important that this peace education goes along with the access and the building the schools and whatever. So some of the main components of the peace education is promotes the respect, diversity, dignity, and human rights in a place as, with the huge amount of diversity that you find in the Northeast. This is something that is extremely important. Encourages dialogue, empathy, and critical thinking, teaches nonviolent conflict resolution and reconciliation, strengthens social cohesion and responsible citizenship. And what does Sunbird do to address this? So the first thing, of course, peace is not just telling them about peace and how to get along with the neighbors, but the basic element of peace is if they don't have access to school, what are we talking about peace when they don't have peace for themselves? So the access to education is something, a very big part of what we're doing. We have very diverse teams. In the picture that you saw, we have team members from maybe 14 or 15 states, different backgrounds, different religions, different educational qualifications. That is the strength of our team, that we have no affiliation to any culture, any religion, any politics, only a commitment to the work that we are doing. We have a unique peace and friendship curriculum, which is from our 8th to 10th standard children, which is run in the schools during the spare time and occasionally during the school timings itself. It's got many elements to this curriculum about engaging the children with. We have to engage with the local leaders, right from the village authority to the women's group, the students groups, the people in the government, from the subdivision officers, the DCs. All of this is part of the peace strategy. Important is the capacity building. At the end of the day, we cannot be just having a few sessions on peace and walking away. It is about the faculty holding the ball when we leave from there. And of course, policy integration with what the government itself intends. It's not something that we're doing which is in any contradiction to what the government is trying to do. A deep engagement with the Army and Assam Rifles. You and I have to admit that there was a time decades ago when there was no such thing as human rights. Soldiers were not trained. The soldiers suffered brutally. Many of them were died, killed, tortured, whatever. And there were instances of human rights violations. It would be very honestly said that many bad things happened on both sides of the divide decades ago. That's no longer the case. The Army now has something called WHAM, WHAM. That's not about going and whamming, beating up people, but it's winning hearts and minds. And that's where Sunbird plays a very big role. We go into these very remote villages, some of them which we cannot even reach. And we get things like solar lights, blankets, street lights, and a whole lot of other aid. Even during the conflict, there were tons of relief materials coming. So we hand it over to the Army, the Assam Rifles, and they take it to these remote places, building that positive perception with the people where this trust has been fractured. So it's a win-win all around. The local communities benefit. The Army gets to a closer link with the people. And of course, Sunbird, we get our work done. And now all that we're doing with these 13,000 children this year alone it's very important. Our team members, believe it or not, have visited almost all their villages. So once the children come to us and the parents are aware that because of the help of Sunbird, their children are going to have brighter futures, we have many villages, entire tribes and communities with us. And through our children, we get anchored and we are able to do our work much more efficiently. So here is one example. I showed you the beautiful picture of the Kachai school. This is the Naga children who have never known something like Onam. So they have given a briefing about what these festivals are about and how they're celebrated, and they physically actually do something. And here you have a few of the children learning about Eid. So they get an introduction to many festivals, of the important festivals of the country. And way back in 2016, I was able to organize this festival in Manipur. I do not think there are going to be many more festivals like this for a very long time. This was one of our villages where we had a very deep connection thanks to the school that we built, where all the children were sponsored by Sunbird Trust. So we said, come on, let's celebrate by having this friendship festival of all the communities, the Nagas, the Kukis, the Maitais. And, you cannot hear of it at a time now in these fractured times. So we had the top Manipuri, the Maitai stars. These are the rock stars of Manipur, Kaiko and Sadananda, the film stars. They came for the first time in their lives to the hills at Sunbird Guarantee. And you'll see the beautiful crowd from multiple villages. It was not a day. This was 5 days of music, it was games, it was all sorts of fun. The traditional games from the past that were brought back. Okay, these are the one of the Mai Tai dances. Again, the people in these hill villages had never seen anything like this. And this is a cookie dance in a Naga village. And just 10 years earlier to this, they were killing each other in the Naga cookie conflict. So a very beautiful event that was conducted in January 2016. This is at the heart of what we do. And in the Northeast, for various cultural and religious reasons, people are not aware of things like yoga, and there are maybe even elements that say it should not be done. You would be surprised to know that in Imphal, you're not allowed to show Hindi movies because they feel it affects the local language. Okay, so here is our children, our Naga children, in doing yoga. Again, part of our assimilating, getting them to get an idea of the rest of the country. And what we're trying to do is not charity. We demand, and we are getting the support of the parents in all our schools. So if we have a tree plantation of this work to be done or something that is being constructed, the parents arrive and help us with this. So that is their buy-in for the support that we're giving their children. And here again, another example, one of the 15 schools that we built was again in a very conflict-affected part of the plains of Manipur. And there was no access road. We had a very generous donor who donated this land, but there was no road to reach this place. And here you see the whole village coming out. The local MLA also put in his bit, and the beautiful road was built. And then it's about connecting with all the stakeholders. And here are the women, the important decision makers in society. So this is with the women self-help group, talking to them about the genuine issues that they have, not just about the school and the children, but also about their village, so that we could interact deeper with them. A very important story, by the way, all our schools, all 15 of them are called friendship schools, which to the best of our ability and the ability of the local founders denotes that they will not have any discrimination against any tribe, any community, any religion, and they will be most inclusive. Now, this school has a very special significance in that it was an army camp, because this was perceived to be a village of militants, insurgents, or whatever they call them. And the army camp was here to maintain, the order. But I'd like to say, partially due to the good work of Sunbird in stabilizing the situation, and of course the other reasons which the army may have had, this camp was vacated and locked up. And when we requested the army, so they said, "What are you going to do with these beautiful buildings, even though they're, they're empty?" So we said we need it for a school for this village. And they said that was a brilliant idea, the local brigadier, and he handed over the keys the same day. So what was the army camp is now a full-fledged school in a village. So this is the type of change that we're able to do. And this is the picture where the whole village was there. You can see the very old ladies on the right, all come to celebrate this wonderful occasion. And as I mentioned to you, we are very deeply involved with the army. So this is the army taking our children. I say this is a sad picture because this is a picture of the Mai Tai and the Kuki children who are now in this conflict that is going on in Manipur from our schools, invited by the Assam Rifles to Nagaland, where there was, where the Naga children joined them. And they were really looked after, taken all around, shown what the army does. And these kids were literally in tears to say bye-bye to each other. They were writing letters to each other. They visited each other's homes when they came back. So this is part of the Students' Friendship Tour, as you can see written in the background, conducted by the Assam Rifles. And it's not been an easy job. There have been definitely many, many challenges. One of the things that we face is this deep thing called nationalism, which I distinguish from patriotism, which is something much more broader. So, excuse me. So, for instance, a small state like Manipur, which has barely 3.5 million people, 35 lakh people, there are 33 different identities, languages, and everyone wanting their place in the sun, their land, their culture, so jostling for space in every respect. So it becomes very difficult when you're working in a place like this. If you're working in schools and every 30, 40 kilometers, the language changes, the culture changes. One of the biggest challenges. People are deeply connected to their own community and tribal loyalties. My community, my tribal, my religion sometimes, right or wrong, something that has to be overcome when you want to spread something like acceptance of plurality and diversity. some of the cultural differences. There is patriarchy to be, overcome. Women don't have a role in many of the villages. I'm not saying this is across the Northeast. Let's not mistake that any of these points pertain to the entire Northeast. There have been beautiful examples where we could learn where things are much better than other places as well. So, for instance, in some of the places, the women are not allowed even to village councils and things like that. And our young women in Sunbird Trust often face a problem when they are highly trained and they go to do capacity building of teachers and they have 30, 35, 40-year-old males and have to observe their classes and train them. It's a big issue which the teachers have over there. The issue of corporal punishment. Now, everybody knows in every policy of the government that this corporal punishment is to be done away with. Instead, we have places where it is so much ingrained in the system where parents come and fight with us. If we have stopped it, they said, because you stopped this beating my children, that is how my son is failing. So this is the level of the changes that we face. Massive security issues. I don't have to say this. You know what's happening in Manipur. The lack of educators in these remote places for people to reach here, where there's frequently not proper electricity, connectivity, facilities, even facilities to stay. So trained teachers coming here, that too from a different tribe, different community, different language, a big issue. And added to that, of course, is the resource paucity in terms of paying everyone, which also contributes to the lack of educators. Foreign influence. Now, what many people may not know, this may be a big surprise to people in this seminar, in this webinar, is that 99% of our Northeast is disconnected from the rest of India. There is only a tiny corridor of just 20, 21 kilometers, which is the Chicken's Neck, which links India, that portion of India to this portion of India, this portion of our country. So there is a huge influence of, say, now the conflict happening in Myanmar between the different tribes and the army spilling over into our borders. There is the Bangladesh issue spilling over. There's Nepal, Bhutan, China, there's Tibet. All the influences coming, further creating the problems for bringing about peace. And one of the big programs that we are doing is seeing our work in Manipur and Nagaland. We were invited to Arunachal Pradesh by the government of Arunachal to take over schools on the China border, government schools, and to help to run them and to build the capacity there. So we signed a memorandum of understanding with the government of Arunachal. And so what is the rationale for these border schools? What is happening is that the Indian Army cannot patrol 1,200 kilometers of, say, the Arunachal border. There are thousands of kilometers elsewhere also. And it is the villages on the border, the people, the hunters, the shepherds, the farmers that go across to the other side, meet their cousins over there and come back and tell the army guys, hey, listen, those Chinese guys have walked in over here and they're trying to make a camp. The border is not a thin line that you see in the map. It is 20, 30 kilometers of no man's land where anybody can walk in. So what is happening now is that these border villages, the people are vacating them to come inland for the education of their children and for better facilities. And with that, the nation is suffering because we are losing these eyes and ears. So the idea that the government of Arunachal gave to us was take over these government schools, bring them back so that the villagers come back and our border villages are full and contribute to national security. This is a big part of what our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, is also been trying to do. Strengthening the academic quality, the teacher capacity, that's something that the government expects us to do. So effectively, the Sunbird team is running these schools administratively and academically and whatever. And of course, nothing goes without the buy-in of the community and engaging with them. So the community aspect of it and focusing on the learning outcomes. And we are very much aligned. For instance, the Government of India strategies in Northeast is development-led peace strategy. So we are bringing in a huge amount of CSR money. In fact, we are probably the highest CSR, the people are bringing CSR into Arunachal. As you've seen, we are helping with the WAM, the Winning Hearts and Minds, in the counterinsurgency in a very peaceful way. And of course, the border management that I just mentioned about how we are trying to strengthen the border villages. So to give you an idea, here is a village in GSS, the government school in Monigong, a very remote part of Arunachal, which was completely dilapidated and done up by Sunbird Trust. So challenges that we face over here in the government school program. Now, this is our interaction with the government. Okay, this is a very close interaction. I'm happy to say that thus far it has been very fruitful, and with all the difficulties, it has been going well. But let me talk of a few of the challenges. The teachers are generally absent from these border areas, prefer to sit in the towns, in Itanagar and places like that. Again, the tribal issue, the lack of a place to stay, the distance, the lack of connectivity, electricity. Sunbird team members sometimes have to travel for an hour to get a signal. They are in sub-zero temperatures in some of these places. They are blocked by landslides and may have to sometimes spend the night out because they cannot reach their destination. So that is the team Sunbird in this place. I've mentioned all these, the frequent landslides, extreme remoteness, the lower student motivation, because they're the first lot of children who have gone to school. Their parents did not have this opportunity. So the parents themselves do not know how to sort of guide the children. And so that is the limited parental involvement, all the challenges that we face, and of course, this urban migration, which is depleting these villages, which we are trying to arrest. And many, many positives, as I just mentioned. The first and foremost is a huge support from the Education Department of Arunachal Pradesh, starting with the Education Minister, Mr. Pasang Doji Sorna. The truancy of the teachers not coming, all sorts of issues, the stores not coming, the books not coming, the rations not coming. One by one, these are being tackled at scale. And for instance, the problem has been solved by posting teachers of those communities who are more interested in being over there, getting them back to the villages. So the count of the teachers attending has improving. So dramatic support from the education department, and they're very open to our complaints about the truancy or whatever else is happening there. So we are enjoying that. Like I mentioned, the posting of staff by the education minister, huge CSR support by our CSR partners. I would name Axis Bank as one of the tremendous support that is coming from them, and of course to our many other donors. Support from the local community when you have a young, boy or a young man or woman in their 20s coming and staying in such a remote village with all the cultural issues, attendant issues. Plenty of support from the army and from the local community, and very important, the army being just next door on the various posts. They themselves are deeply involved. They have jumped into our schools. They have constructed hostels, brought in the solar, helped us with libraries, saying that they're also stakeholders. So we have got a unique situation where you have the government, the NGO, the CSR partner, and the army. So these are the way, of course, the local community with that. So this is a very unique partnership that is happening in Arunachal Pradesh, and availability of trained external volunteers who are our own Sunbird team members. So a few pictures from Arunachal. You could see the infrastructure that is there. This is like a small student parliament, some of the things that our team members are doing. Inauguration of one of the beautiful schools over there after completely doing it up. My colleague and CEO, Ali Askar, who's running the organization, is on my right. And the Axis Bank, this is a visit of the Axis Bank team to see where their money was going. And this beautiful picture, what you see, the blue buildings, are the Teacher Training Institute. It was actually a tourism complex which was not occupied for a single day after inauguration, and the government asked us to do something with it. It has been turned into a beautiful academy where teachers from all over the Northeast are being brought in, thanks again to the Axis Bank project for teacher training. And of course, some challenges in advancing the peace education policy. You see, peace is not brought in a day, a year, 2 years, 5 years, even 10 years. It takes time. And during that time, there is so much of transience of even the village council, the electoral people, the budget, and so many things. So that is something which is, if you're really looking for peace at scale, this is one of the big problems. I've used the word bureaucratic inertia. I mean, let me qualify that by saying we have also experienced extreme support from many elements of the bureaucracy. But again, due to the transience of people coming in and out and developing a relationship with the new people, whether it be from the army or the bureaucracy, takes time for them to sort of think. And when you've just established a relationship, they are posted out. I would go on again to credit that we are getting definitely a lot of support from the state governments wherever we are working. Now, we have many of our partners, the CSR partners, who come to us and say, what is the evidence? You can't measure, peace, something like so intangible as peace. We know what it means, but this is, the evidence gap. And scale, you can't make one size fit all. It is so different, a school in the plains of Manipur, a school in the hills of Manipur, and a school, say, on the China border. The context is different, the culture is different, the conditions are different, so we cannot make one model which fits all. So the scale versus context is something which is very important. And so At the end of what I have to say, I can say that of this presentation, peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of understanding. And to engage and to get some interaction, some points and learnings from all the good people who are on this webinar, a few questions. What would your idea of peace education look like? And in this complex cultural environment, what are the innovative ideas that you could give? What barriers that you may have faced, or what that you anticipate that would be over here? And what is one practical solution that you would implement? Some of the questions you can go ahead and ask any of the questions. So let's go ahead and discuss. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Colonel Rego, for such an enlightening and inspiring talk. Your practitioner's lens on engaging with wide range of stakeholders was truly inspiring, and the emphasis on solving across the entire value chain offered a very practical and a forward-looking perspective. We are now open for questions. Please drop your queries in the Q&A section.
Rana, you yourself may have some questions. You're on mute, Rana.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just saying that I'm deeply overwhelmed by what I saw and what I heard from you. Though we've discussed, but I haven't gone into such details. This is absolutely outstanding work, and in such difficult times, and its resilience at work, so at play. So I think people discuss and people feel a lot about what we can do, and this is absolutely action that anything can happen. And you can do actually anything under the sun if you have the willpower and shall I say the mindset to make a difference in the world and in any situation. So that's my take on this. I'll have questions, but I'll have Prayash. There are questions, I think.
Yeah, we have a few questions. So it's from Mr. Shibam. So he would like to know what are the challenges that you have faced while working in Northeast regions that has various cultures, and how did you overcome them? Would want to hear something from your experience.
What were the various? What did you say? Excuse me.
Various challenges that you have faced while working in Northeast region that has various cultures.
Yes. So let me start with something unique about Sunbird. Many NGOs and civil society organizations are not really able to work across the Northeast in this conflict, one community or the other community, because invariably there is some association of these NGOs with a culture or a religion or an ideology which may not be compatible with everyone across the board. And I think how we've been able to overcome that challenge is bringing it from the army. Our religion is the religion of all the people we work with, the culture of all the people we work with. We have something called deepen your roots and broaden your vision, which means a team, wherever they're working. This was given to me by Sri Ravi Shankar ji. Believe it or not, he had called me as an advisor when there was a lot of problems happening in Manipur in 2015. So this concept is celebrate your religion, celebrate your culture, your language, your way of life, your heritage, but don't use it as a weapon against the others. Broaden your vision. So that is the mantra for all the Sunbird team members, wherever they are, to be with the local people, not to dictate to them, but to respect their way of living, and to support them in building their own culture and traditions. That is a starting point from which we can take off from our work, which is why we have young men and women from anything from 22 to wherever, working and staying in these villages where the conflict is raging around them. So that is one of the very big things that we have. The second thing is that we are not a charity throwing money at the people. We are a partners. And when we select the places that we work and the schools that we build, there has to be a buy-in by the community, which we do through very great due diligence. So like you saw the pictures of the parents involved, the founders have to do their work. So how that buy-in is important. No institution can go with just people from the top trying to run it, and once they go away, the whole thing collapses. And I'll give you an example. When we started, we were supporting all the children in one of the schools where those poor little children were cooking by themselves. And so everybody became poor, even the government servants' children and whatever. So now we have it if we are supporting, say, the food for the children or even the tuition fees, especially for the hostels. The parents have to put in their bit, no matter how poor they may be. We understand they don't have money, but yes, you can surely bring some rice, you can bring firewood, you can bring vegetables, you can come and work while we're making the toilet for the school. So there are multiple things like this that we are able to do. So gaining the trust of the people, getting their buy-in are two major elements of overcoming whatever challenges. It could be the lack of electricity, the lack of connectivity, the conflict, and whatever. And in this group of my team members who may be attending this webinar also, we've had young team members who have been, living in villages where the militants have come in with their guns and whatever, but they've been protected by the local communities. So this, of course, Shubham, whatever else you would like to ask us, we're most, willing to talk about it at any time.
Sure, Colonel. The next question is, where do you see Sunbird growing from here? What do you think is next on the agenda of furthering peace?
Well, we've still got some distance to cover in terms of our, mission, vision, in terms of building more schools and more hostels and sponsoring more children. And here I would like to say it is not a game of numbers, right? So when we build a hostel, or when we build a school, it is hundreds of children who are getting an opportunity for decades to come to access education. Okay, it's not that Sunbird takes credit for building 50 schools and sponsoring 1 lakh scholarships and whatever. Number one, we are deeply connected in terms of that our team members go to the homes, they go to the schools, they meet the founders, meet the other stakeholders over there, so that these children, like I said, we've got 8 of them who are now, including both our engineers, are our own students. So we've got that distance to cover before we go anywhere else. The work that is for us, cut out for us right now is, there's a big difference, and I would very openly admit there are some people who've started a single school and have gone very deep, who, in the work that they're doing. Ours is more not across the surface. We have also been doing a lot of good work. We are opening school after school, hostel after hostel, and slowly building up the capacity, which may take a little longer. So there's a slight difference in the model where people need to understand that we're not just a superficial organization. We feel that the more children we can grab and put them into the education system, that is going to help us a lot. So work cut out in these aspects, and also the peace aspect of really drilling it down. We are disappointed. It's a very tough thing to say, where we've worked for a decade. We have put the Kuki and Naga children together in a village where where their parents have literally killed each other. And now again, there is conflict where they can't cross a certain line. It's, life-threatening for them. So we will persevere despite all of this. We are really grateful to the local communities for supporting us and, in spite of all this conflict that is there.
Thank you, Colonel Rego. The other question is, how does an organization such as Sunbird navigate the constraints within civil society that civil society operates today? If you could share any best practices for other similar actors in the space.
There is a mantra which I think all of us should follow. Don't try to do more than what is possible. Don't try to get into dangerous territory. Sometimes when you're very helpful to one community, you're perceived as an enemy by the other community. These type of things. So the first thing is absolute patience in what you're trying to do. Slowly building up the relationship through immense communication. My team members are expected to know who's the women's group head, who's the student group, the local leaders. They're expected to go to the religious institutions, whatever they may be, whatever religion they may personally follow. They're expected to connect with the government officials, these type of things. Okay, so in a very fraught situation like there is in Manipur, where people have been killed, entire villages have been burnt, It is a slow process, but our biggest success is that our schools are standing, they are protected by the local communities. I would openly say there may be people from, militants, inverted commas, their children in our schools or their wives or, teachers and whatever. Our job is to expose everyone to the possibility and the fruit of a peaceful society, the gains which the children can get, the parents can get of something that is stable without the threat of violence all the time. So I'm not going to claim huge success, but yes, in the places like we've started in this area of None in Manipur, you could see 10, 20 villages all around where the army was finding so much difficulty in moving around. We ourselves, almost all the children in that area are coming to 3 or 4 of our schools. Very closely connected. For the first time, the people are losing their fear of the other communities in the neighborhood. So there is some success.
So the last question for today. Could you talk about your work in Assam in general? How is trust building with community different in Northeast compared to other parts? So this is beyond education as well.
In terms of Assam?
Yeah, in terms of Assam.
Could you repeat that question again, please?
Could you talk about work in Assam in general? How is trust building with community different in Northeast compared to other parts beyond education as well?
You're talking only in reference to Assam with the rest of India?
So,
Rest of
let me just clarify, Colonel Rego. So one part is, if you can just talk a little bit about Assam, if you have experience working there, that's number one. The second part is, Rahul wants to understand how is trust building in the community different in Northeast compared to other parts in India? Meaning, obviously, there is some differentiation and the diversity of Northeast in terms of the tribes, in terms of the various communities that is there. So, what is different in Northeast? I can build trust probably in 3 months in West Bengal. I will take 3 years. I'll still not open up any doors or windows in Northeast. So Rahul wants to understand a couple of pointers given your experience.
So let me talk about Assam. Now you cannot say that Assam itself has got a whole lot of homogeneity. There are multiple tribes. There is, of course, the majority community. Within the majority community, there are different. When I say majority, it's not Hindu, Muslim, and that kind of a thing. It's majority in terms of the culture of within Hinduism also. So lot of differences. Now, for instance, Sunbird has got a huge presence in Majuli Island, which is one of the biggest riverine islands in the world. And we are working with, I think, 12 or 15 schools over there. We've got a few thousand children. This is an entirely tribal community where their way of life, they are into, the island gets flooded, believe it or not, to such an extent that people have to build their houses on stilts. When the Brahmaputra floods this island, it's not a small island, it's an island of more than 200 villages. But when the floods come, people have to go up, the houses are on stilts, and everything goes along with them, including the chickens and the dog and the cat and the geese and whatnot. And so what happens to the cows? So people have to go down deep underwater, cut grass and bring it to the cows, which are kept on a sort of a mound over there. Anyway, so what is different in Assam? It is, in fact, very similar to the rest of the Northeast, except that I feel the divisions are not as deep as in a place like Manipur. The sense of nationalism is not so deep. There is an understanding that people are of different communities. They don't attack each other. There are 1 or 2 places where you have the Bodos and the Santal. You have, sometimes a little bit of communal stuff. But largely, Assam doesn't have this problem. That is one of the good things that is there about Assam. And while talking about Assam, we are dealing with one of the communities called the Biate tribe, where we built a beautiful school in Dima Hasao district of Assam, where this is one of the on the UNESCO list of the endangered languages of these people. So again, it's a very different attitude. It's a different culture. It's a different way, of working together that is there in that village in Assam as compared to what we're doing across in Majuli. So that is one part. Now, the second question that was asked was, what is the difference between working in the Northeast and the rest of India? It is more or less the same point that when you work, say, in remote villages in, say, Maharashtra, there's a lot of homogeneity of language. There is the homogeneity of religion. Okay, maybe different castes and whatever. Of course, a little bit of that issue is there. And people, uh, the hyper nationalism of my land, my territory, my thing is not so deeply ingrained. But in all places, I think it's more similarities than dissimilarities. It's one thing is, I think people in the remote areas are very religious, and one has to respect whichever religion they come from. Like in the army, when we do a firing or we go on a march, we have to do those pujas and the granthi comes and all those type of things. So I can't say, okay, the next aspect, of course, of working in other parts of India is the security issue, which unless you're in one of the Naxal issues in Chhattisgarh or places like that, not too much of a challenge for the team members to be in such places. The third thing is, I would say that connectivity, internet, electricity, water, more or less, even in very remote parts of this part of India, is frequently much better. There are some villages, which are simply unreachable near the borders that we have in Myanmar and Arunachal. So these are some of the differences. I could go on and on.
Thank you, Colonel
So,
Rego. So those were the questions.
great.
I,
Sorry,
yeah,
Prash, go ahead.
I would request Mr. Rana to deliver his closing remarks.
Yeah, thanks, Prash. Thanks. Great. This has been it's a great eye opener for me at least, and obviously, and thank you so much for. I've seen at a point we've reached close to 54 participants. I think as we speak, there are it's 48 attendees right now who's logged in. So thank you so much for this overwhelming presence. I think, and thank you for your time. And any participant would like to get in touch with Colonel Rego, please get in touch, because Sunbird Trust, the website, please get in touch with him, his team, and the website also has the name of the team members, their email IDs. If you want to reach ISPP, there is a number that you can reach, and obviously there is Prayash who can definitely. I'll type out. Prayash, can you just type out my number and your number, because my chat I can only send it to the panelist and the host. So if you have access, just give my number and your number in the chat right now, so that people can, so please reach out. That's a generic number in the website. We do a lot of policy courses. We probably would start something in the Northeast soon. But thanks, Colonel Rego, once again. It's been a pleasure hosting you for this webinar and the partnership. I'm sure we'll do more from ISPP and Sunbird. And thanks again to everyone who's attended today. Thanks a ton for your time. And please note down my number.
A warm invitation to whoever are in this webinar to visit us and come and touch our story in the Northeast. There will be plenty of places that they could come right across the 6 states, and we are ever looking to hosting them. And
excellent,
yeah.
Excellent. So thank you once again, and we will be conducting a lot more webinars across, in the coming 2 to 3 months. We will keep you posted through LinkedIn, and I look forward to seeing a couple of more familiar faces who's logged in the future. Thank you so much. All the very best, and good night.
Good night. Good night.